Hello and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to introduce a new format that I'm gonna start publishing here regularly, I hope, which I called CI breakdowns. The idea of this format is that I'm gonna watch together with you short recorded contact improvisation dances, and I'm gonna be commenting on different technical elements that I see in the dance. And of course, the focus will be more on empirical things that we can see with the eyes, and to some extent I also remember some of my intention during the moments of the dances, so I might be able to share a bit more, but I'm not going to comment so much on the intentions of my partner because it's not something that I'm aware of. So it will be more about what we could see clearly. So let's start. The first video, I'm going to be dancing here with a guy called Menno. He's part of the team of the Movement Lab. Let's begin watching. So yeah, as you can see, kind of a slow start into the dance. Yeah, and here there is, just in that particular moment, there is a small thing that I want to focus on for this video, and that's how to use leverage from the limbs. And as you can see in this moment, I'm balancing on Menno's back, and he keeps his pelvis relatively perpendicular and parallel to the ground, so I'm kind of stuck in that position. Now I'm initially starting to play a bit with my limbs. One goes in that direction, one goes in that direction, kind of to find the balance. And then I'm gonna use the limbs to initiate the departure from the position. And you will see just in a moment. Let's do the video in a bit slower tempo. So you will see how this, yep, exactly. You see how that arm crossed my own center line. Maybe we can watch it again. Yeah, so just see how I'm gonna use, in that case, the far arm to cross my own center, plus the left arm to initiate the departure out. Here is the swinging coming here, up, 1, 2, and that looks very subtle, but it really helps to shift weight. So I often use my limbs in that manner. Yeah. Here there's an interesting transition. You can look from now what is happening with the footwork into that position. So yeah, let's look at this. This is a kind of a strange moment, not very clear or not very typical. You see, like we end up in this kind of weird position where Menno is in between both of my legs here. And he's starting to initiate a body surf kind of, but it's not in the typical perpendicular position that we normally train or teach body surfing when person is directly on the center. And now I want you to see what I'm gonna do with that leg. So let me slow the video a bit. And let's start watching together. Oh, and here you can see that, you see, I have my ankle here, and it's kind of flexed, so I can sense the movement of my partner through my ankle. And as he starts moving, I'm extending the leg. I keep in touch so that I can feel where he's going to, what is the direction of his movement. And then I'm inverting in order to use the secondary leg to propel my center and to stay in contact with my partner. Yeah, and this is actually now, like this little transition here, that's the kind of one of the main topics I want to explore a bit through this video, is like how to enter and what is happening when we attempt to go into a shoulder lift. So now I'm doing a certain less conventional entry where you will see that I'm gonna be starting to take my center line and throw it into that direction and spiral towards my partner. We'll slow it down. Here, so you see I'm starting to fall off axis, and at the same time I have one arm that is already connected to my partner, and the second arm arrives here to the pelvis. So I have one at the bottom, one at the top, and I'm kind of ready to, with the fall, because I was falling in that direction, I have a bit of momentum and I'm ready to translate that momentum into a lift. And I think that maybe Menno was not so familiar with this entry, I'm not sure, but you will see that what he's doing right now. So he's attempting to come up, and he throws initially the far leg, which helps him to come half of the way, but you see the secondary leg here will not rise high enough, so then I cannot lift him, because otherwise I will have to really use the force of my arms, which is a little bit too little in order to really get to the shoulder. Maybe if it would have been really lighter, I would be able to compensate with force, but nevertheless, in our specific physical attributes, it's not so possible. And let's continue watching. Then he goes, and again, the legs stays down. The center now is completely, this is crucial, the center now is completely unsupported. So of course it's very, very heavy. Plus the legs points down, so there's no extension towards my shoulder. There's no way I can carry the weight from here. And we simply move on to another position. Yeah, here there's an attempt to roll a bit up. That doesn't go as well. And now there's like a bit of an easier shoulder entry here we can have a look at. So we are both starting from a very low position, and I'm going to keep my shoulder. You see, this is kind of the crucial thing. My shoulder is really at the same line of my partner's hips, and that's really crucial in order that the weight doesn't go too far to my back, but also that the pelvis is not too heavy on the front. So that's really a clear thing that we can see here. And then Menno propel himself from the leg up, and we can be able to see his like a good alignment here when it comes to making oneself light. So you can see there is like kind of the left side, there is this big arch from the body into one arm, and then the top part makes a more moderate arch from here all the way to that arm. So he's like kind of resting on top of my shoulder, and that's the proper alignment that you want to take when you are on somebody's shoulder if you want to be light, and so that you're resting and your limbs are kind of arching towards and above that the point of support, so you're kind of making an N shape. Let's continue. Like we have a bit of a funky exit. It's not very clear what we actually did, but then we continue. Here you see I'm going to use my arms. You see another moment like this is we can look at it quickly. Hop. You see this moment here. I'm extending the arm in the direction that I want to go. I'm using it often when I'm flying on somebody and I want to go down and they don't bring me down, so I'm using my limbs. In that case, instead of going side, I go to the front space. And then I'm out of the lift. Here I'm again attempting this weird entry of mine, but the Menno doesn't recognize, and we just move to a different slide to the ground. And here again, there is another entry to a shoulder lift that doesn't go all the way up, and we can also explore that moment. So that's a bit of a different, more like, let's say, kind of more typical entry, how many people practice shoulder lift. So you see, like, I have contact with my shoulder, with kind of close to that side, but actually the lift will aim to bring that part of my partner into my shoulder here. And typically when you teach this, you instruct people to throw the first leg, which is the initial leg, towards the shoulder, which will make that part of the pelvis arrive to the shoulder, and then to extend the secondary leg, so to speak, to cross your center line behind you in order to become perpendicular. And let's look at it in slow-mo. And so the first leg arrives up, but then see what happens with the second leg. So now, basically, in this situation, the pelvis is here again, like this is kind of dead weight here, like this part of the pelvis is not supported. I'm just supporting through the arms here. And if Menno's leg will spiral towards his backspace and will cross his center line that divides his body to left and right, his pelvis will become perpendicular and will arrive and land on my shoulder. And so in that case, we really see that like a shoulder lift is a really shared collaboration between the base and the flyer. And now you will see that Menno will not extend the leg so much, which will not enable me to bring him all the way up, and I'm just choosing to spiral us down towards the ground instead. Yeah, here we see some nice foot extension from Menno and myself, using the legs to arrive to the other side. And now we are kind of entering the attempt with different rolls. I'm not sure actually if Menno was aiming for me to arrive fully on his shoulder, but we can look like what happens. So I'll just slow it down a bit. So we are standing, Menno bends down, but then you can see like now the difference between the moment that I've lifted him and this specific moment is that here you see the line of the shoulder is kind of on my sternum in comparison that before it was on the hip. And here what it will indicate is that I will not be really able to stay for so long unless Menno will really extend his hip or bend the back backwards, as we will see. So I'm jumping, and then I end up with, if we kind of see, like this part of my body goes towards the shoulder, but all the rest here, this is kind of dead weight that pulls to the ground, the pelvis, the lower rib. So it's very heavy to keep it. The only way, if Menno will really bend, like extend his hip forward and bend the back backwards, maybe we can balance there, but it will still be very heavy. The alignment, we still see those arches. You see, like we still see this long arch here, and to some extent also on the other side there is some of the arch. Like I could have released my arm further down instead of this bend to really be as light as I can. but nevertheless, it's not enough to stay there, and then it makes it quite heavy, and then it invites Menno, who listens very nicely to the pull of gravity, to just bring me back down because it's too heavy to keep the weight in the air like that. Here again, me attempting these weird entries to shoulder lifts and failing. Here you can see like a nice moment with the principle of arm swings. So I know that in contact improvisation, many people talk about extension, to extend the limbs. I like to use the term swinging because it's not just about the extension that has to do more with alignment, but also with the dynamics of the movement. So I really like to swing the arms into the extended position. You can see it here. I'm going down, and look at now the left arm. I'm throwing it to the ground, and now I'm going to throw the leg and throw. You see that arm is going to be thrown all the way to the other side. And this really helps to shift the weight to the direction that I want to travel towards. And now we have a really nice entry. Finally, it managed to work. We're going to slow it down and see what's going on there. So this is a good frame to actually stop. So here again, we see the same type of entry just from the other side. So I have one arm here on the pelvis, one arm on the shoulder, and I'm kind of starting to fall backwards to my own backspace. And let's see the movement. So I'm going to start falling to the backspace. Up. And now I get the first side of the hip clearly on me. You see that point, that kind of really on top of my shoulder. This is the other side of the pelvis. Now, in order for me to be able to carry the weight, this part needs to travel here. So there has to be this moment of bridging this, because otherwise I'm carrying it with my arms, which are not strong enough to hold so much weight. So, and this we will see in one frame. We see here the first leg of Menno, and this is the second leg, and you will see how the secondary leg will come now into the proper alignment, proper position, hop. And yes, and now the leg came, and now I have the whole pelvis resting perpendicularly on me. And again, you can see nicely the two different arches, one arch here, one arch there. Sorry, my drawing skill is not that good. And we are resting on the shoulder, and I would keep rotating in order to enable Menno to keep spiraling, and he's doing a nice job here with preparing his leg, keeping them extended towards the ground. I would advise to maybe rest also the head, so not to rush, like the head seems kind of starting to go into flexion in the neck. I would keep the extension here in the spine a little further in order to delay the weight transfer. But we can see how Menno is doing it. You see, that's what I mean with the neck. You see here, there is a nice arch, but the head goes a little bit in the opposite direction. Instead of that, the head will just be an extension of that arch. And typically, many people do that because it's like you want to prepare, your eyes are here, so you wanna prepare seeing the ground. But I feel that, like, for me, it's enough to see the ground, so to speak, with my legs, and to keep the weight of the head that is quite significant behind. So then I have a little better ability to receive the floor. And then we can kind of see the end of that. Yeah, and then let's look at it one more time, a bit in fast motion, just to see all the things coming together. So falling to the backspace, extending one leg, the other, turning, preparing the leg for the landing, and that's a very nice moment of a shoulder lift. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoy the this new format, and I will keep sharing it with different focuses as we go and develop. Please leave your comments, questions in the comment section. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, and I see you in one of the next videos.